podcast.
Here we go. Hello, hello, around the block and around the world. This is where we discuss, debate, and deliberate all things diabetes, representing type 2. My name is Dobie Maxwell, proudly representing type 1. Are you representing today, Sami?
I'm representing Dobie, big and
Are you vivacious?
I'm effervescent too.
And always in the know? She is Sami Parker. We'll get to more Sami in just a second. Today's episode of JMT is brought to you by the Diabetes app. What is it, Sami? A free social community app that brings together who?
Type 1 and type 2 diabetics.
Plus their supporters. Thank you for being here. Find community resources and Sami and me on the Diabetes app. Sami, once again, we have the cream de la cream of guests. I don't know where you find them. I don't know where our super producer Elizabeth finds them. We have a fantastic one today, and I'll let you run with it.
Our fantastic guest today is Mary Anderson, and I found Mary on Instagram, not to be weirdo, but I was thoroughly entertained too that you taught third grade. I was like, oh, I applaud her because with high blood sugars, I would literally be like, all of you guys need to be quiet. And Mary has type 1 diabetes, and she's in Virginia right now. Hello, Mary.
Hello, thanks for having me. And I think that's exactly how I sound when I have high blood sugars in my classroom.
Mary, I got to tell you, for me, I'm a comedian, and I know we haven't talked much off camera, but I've been a comedian my entire life, and third grade is when it totally went wrong for me. Because my third grade teacher, Miss Kremsreiter, that was her name, Miss Kremsreiter, and she looked at me and said, do you think you're going to grow up and find a job telling jokes like you do in my class? And I didn't know that was an option. So thanks to my third grade teacher, I was a comedian. So no pressure there.
No pressure. I mean, we just had a April Fool's Day writing. They had to tell jokes. I had a lot of fart jokes written on paper.
Beautiful.
Oh my
I love them
gosh.
already. I would have laughed harder than anybody.
So, Mary, can you kind of talk about your diagnosis story and when that was exactly, if you feel comfortable?
Yeah, of course. I was diagnosed my senior year of college. I was 21. It was 2018. And that whole fall semester of my senior year was a very stressful semester. Everyone in my education program at my college knows that this semester is the semester from hell. And prepare yourself. You're going to cry every day. And I think we did. We all cried every day. It was crazy. And so I had all my classic diabetes symptoms, drinking a lot of water, going to the bathroom frequently. I was losing a lot of weight without realizing it. And I just thought it was all stress. And I was like, it's the semester. I know the semester is so hard.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And I'm going to go home for winter break and it's going to be over. My stress will be gone and everything will go back to normal. And I came home for winter break and I continued to decline and felt awful. I was sleeping all the time. I had no energy. And I just felt just all over that my body, something was seriously wrong. And so I finally made an appointment with my primary doctor who knows my whole family medical history pretty much. She's seen everyone in my family. And I went and I was like, these are my symptoms. I don't know. It's really weird. I think it's my thyroid because I was spending every night Googling on WebMD. And so we ran a bunch of tests. And
that's literally what my mom did too. She's like,
yeah, I pulled it up. I remember one day I pulled up type 1 diabetes on WebMD and I was like, no, that's impossible. It's got to be like, a tumor or something. And I went back. Lo and behold, I went to the doctor and they pricked my finger and I was 439, I think was my blood sugar. And so my doctor was just like, oh, you're type 1 diabetic. All right, let's go get your insulin pens. We're going to bring them in. You're going to give yourself your insulin shots right here. We're going to teach you how to do it. And you're going to do it for the rest of your life. And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
I would have literally been like, have some empathy.
I just started crying.
Can I get a hug from somebody?
Right. I was all alone. My mom was going to come with me to my appointment just as support. And then she was like, no, you'll be fine. They'll run some lab work and we'll know in a few days what's going on. So she felt really terrible after that she didn't go because I was all alone and just crying hysterically. And so, they brought it out and I remember my first insulin shot in the office. The nurse walked me through it.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, here you go, your turn. And I went to do it and I didn't feel it at all because, it's such a tiny needle. You don't really feel it. Yeah. And I remember doing it and through my tears, I couldn't see and I didn't feel it. So I was like, is it in? I don't even know. She's like, yes, you're good. Like, press the button.
Yeah, that's difficult too because I feel like majority of the times the diagnosis, you get diagnosed, you go get more blood work done, and then you go like a different day. So for them to do it all in one day, you were probably just like, Okay, can we like slow our roll here?
Yes, it was crazy. But one of my
Can I see a pamphlet, something?
yeah. Luckily, one of my roommates from college, Beth, she is type 1 and she has been type 1 since she was in elementary school. And so living with her for the last 2 years and in college, I knew about type 1 and she had taught me some stuff. So as soon as I was diagnosed, I was like, "Oh my gosh, Beth, like she's never going to believe this. She's got to teach me everything." I called her like as soon as I left the appointment. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. Help."
You're like, Beth, I'm one of you now.
Yeah. Teach me your
We're the
ways.
zombie people, the
Yeah,
afflicted.
I've had people that are like, Samantha, I think I'm diabetic. Like, I think we might be diabetic together. And I'm like, guys, I don't know. Have you lost weight? No. I'm like, have you been eating a lot? No, I've just been peeing. I was like, did you have water? Yeah, a big gallon. I'm like, that's probably why.
Yeah, yeah. Cause and
It
effect.
is. You have bladder infection.
Yes,
Something.
exactly.
Let me ask you this: were you living alone when you got your diagnosis, or did you have do that at home, or did you have roommates?
I was at home. I had actually just moved home because it was winter break. And then that spring semester, I was going to live from home while I did my student teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I had just moved everything back home with my parents. And so luckily I wasn't alone. So when everything was going on, they were there for me to help out and
Yeah.
try to figure it out with me. Spent a lot of time sitting at the kitchen table, Googling type 1 diabetes.
Did your parents do the classic, like, so Dobie, when there's like, oh, I guess maybe it was because I was younger, but they have like a hotline. And this was like when you're younger, and I was diagnosed when I was 12. So they had like the hotline, and my mom would like talk to the nurse. And I think they just like became friends, to be honest. But she would like call her, and then she'd be like, well, I was every time she's telling the nurse, well, I was like on Google, and I saw that if you do, and I was like, she's telling a medical professional to that she checked Google. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, Mom, you can't look at everything on Google.
I don't know if that's good or bad. See, I got diagnosed in 2011. I was in my 40s at the time, so Google was not a part of my life like it is everybody's life now. And I think it's worse because they went, like say, WebMD, and they have all the symptoms, and they know what they're doing, and you need to do this. It's like, could you shut your pie hole or show me your medical certificate, your diploma? Don't tell me what to do. Does that bother you when they do? It bothers me to this day. You can't eat that. You should do this. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
And those are my friends.
For sure. I was just talking to my mom tonight. We were reminiscing and she was like, "I remember after you were diagnosed, I spent all the time on the phone with insurance trying to figure out how to get a Dexcom and a pump and what everything meant, and test strips were so expensive. It just I spent all that time on the phone and I had no idea what was going on because now I just call insurance and deal with it all, and my mom's kind of now in the dark. She hasn't been doing it." So, but we were laughing tonight. She's like, "I was trying to make all those calls. I had no idea what I was doing."
my mom still, she'll be like, because I'll be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get this," and she's like, "Oh, I'm calling to do whatever," and I'm like, "Yeah, I swear," I'm like, it's like her full time job is calling the pharmacies because she like likes it. She's like, "No, I'm gonna call." I'm like, "Okay, if you want to call that bad, you can call."
Let me ask you this, Mary. Did one word to me the first hour that I was diagnosed that I think was permeating my life was fear. Again, I thought type 2 diabetes, it was a death sentence. Now, as type 1, a young lady, now Sammy, she tells her story all the time. She's brave. You know what I'm saying? If we're in a fight, Sammy's going to kick butt, not me. I'm going to hide behind her because she's tough. She told me she was 12 years old, never flinched once. How was it in your life? You know, would you say 21?
I was diagnosed at 21, yes.
Yeah. Now, were you afraid at all? I thought it was a death sentence. I really did. And I'm type 2.
I don't even know how to describe it. I think I was just in shock. My first thoughts, honestly, were about because I've always wanted to be a mom. I always wanted to grow up and have kids and have a big family. And my first thoughts were about, can I still have kids? Can I still have a family? Like that's where my
Mhm.
first thoughts were and where all of my panic was kind of sitting. Like,
Yeah.
what is my future going to be? Can I still fulfill this dream of having kids and having a family?
There's always kidnapping.
Dobie,
You know, you get one in the parking lot, in the back of the car. There's 3, 4 kids, and mom's not going to miss one until she gets home.
you know what? If you really wanted to make a good joke, you could have been like, you literally teach a bunch of kids.
Yeah, I get my fill of kids every day for sure.
Bobby, how would you like your own room? How'd that come home with Miss Mary?
I had a student stop me in the hall yesterday and ask me, "Will you adopt me?" I said, "No." Sorry. I love you, but no.
I would have literally been like,
Yeah, they were
no.
very offended. I said no.
Wait, so how does that work with like teaching? Because I feel like, okay, so from a low blood sugar standpoint, a high blood sugar standpoint, and then just like being able to finger prick without chaos. Or, I mean, I guess, do you have like a glucose monitor? I'm sure.
Yes, I have Dexcom and
Yeah,
T-Slim.
okay, I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a lot of low snacks behind my desk, and normally I can feel it coming on pretty well. And my kids know if Miss Anderson grabs a snack, then her blood sugar is low. So anytime I pull out any kind of food, even if I'm not low and I'm just hungry, if I pull out any kind of food, they're like, "Are you low? Is your sugar low?"
You're like,
So they kind of are obsessed with tracking my blood sugar. They'll randomly be like, "What is it? What's your sugar?"
you're like, 1 brownie point for you because you guessed correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
I got to butt in here, Mary. You talked about this little tiny needle. I don't know where your world is. My first time, it felt like a pole vault. It was about 9 feet long, putting it all the way through my hand, coming out the other end. Now, again, you're beautiful, delicate young ladies, both of you. Sammy would never complain about it either. I couldn't stand those needles.
Well, Dobie,
I know.
some people have some more tenacity than others.
I'm speaking for listeners, not just me. Asking for a friend.
Yeah, not you. I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's not too bad. My kids, they've seen me change my pump for sure, and they're obsessed with it. They ask me every day, "Will you change your pump today for us?" And I'm like, "No, I don't do this for you.
You're
No,
like, it's not entertainment, guys.
It's not a show.
not fun for me. It's maybe fun for you to watch, but not me."
Yeah.
But no, I feel my lows come on, so I have plenty of snacks behind me, so I take care of that. The highs, I definitely get a little more cranky and snap at them a little bit more, and my patience runs thin in those moments.
Yeah. I mean, my patience runs thin like when I'm teaching dance, I'll be teaching it to like 5-year-olds and then all the way up to honestly 18. And sometimes it's like 15, 16-year-olds that I'm like, I'm gonna strangle you because they're just like talking and I'm like, guys, can we like not talk right now? I'm like, I'm trying to be cool with you. Like, let's just mutual respect. And then I'm like, my blood sugar is really high. So unless you want me to lose it, we all need to zip it.
Oh, yeah. I'm very transparent with my students about it. And so they know all the ins and outs. They know it's an insulin pump and insulin brings my sugar down. Low blood sugar is not good. I mean, they've asked a million questions and I've answered them all. And they love learning about it. They're so into it and so curious. And a lot of them.
It's good though, because I mean, you're like educating every class that comes.
Yeah.
Are there kids in your school that have diabetes?
No.
Either type 1 or type 2, but not even in your grade?
No, there's no one. I always ask the nurse every year. I'm like, anyone? And she's like, no. So
Really?
yeah, I'm selfishly.
Is it a big school?
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty big school. We're overcrowded. We've got 2 grade levels out in trailers outside the building.
That's where I'd be, I'm sure. Dobie gets in the trailer class.
Dobie's got to go to the back of the trailer. It's
Back of the
added those
trailer.
extra steps.
We call it East Campus to make it a little nicer.
Are
Okay.
they like the pop-up ones, like the pop-up?
No, we have like
classrooms?
mega trailers. So super fancy trailers. There's like the regular trailers that's just one room and it's very small,
Yeah.
not very nice. But this is like a mega trailer with real walls, lots of like 10 classrooms, bathrooms. I mean, the whole
Whoa.
shebang. Yeah.
Oh, so that's like a literal campus. Okay. I'm like, mine had the trailer, but it was like the ghetto, like one pop-up. You just walked in and like the one next to it and such.
Yeah. We upgraded this year. So.
I had a one-room schoolhouse on the prairie. That's how old I am.
No.
How about school lunch? Like if you or anybody, if the kids had it, do they adjust your lunch or would they do a student's lunch for diabetes? You think they would?
I don't know, honestly. I mean, that's a great question. I don't know. I mean, I bring my lunch.
So you kind of eat whatever then?
I pack my lunch so I know what I'm going to eat, but there are definitely a lot of times where there's prize pizza parties. And so those are a little tricky to handle. I just kind of roll with it. And I'm on my feet most of the day. So that helps my blood sugar, brings me down some more.
Yeah. Do you eat like a specific way or no?
I try to eat lower carb for lunches just in case it's busy. Half the time I don't even get to bolus. But
yeah,
I eat lower carbs, so it's not too big of a deal if I miss a bolus.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey, Sammy, the only thing better than exercising is exercising in style. To feel good, you gotta look good.
I know, Dobie. That's why I love wearing Beyond Great apparel.
Well, it's good to have high standards. You don't want to be great. You want to be beyond great.
Okay, good one. But it's true. Beyond Great was designed by a type 1 diabetic to motivate others with chronic illness to strive for greatness.
Today and every day, I like to be reminded of my greatness. That's why I always choose Beyond Great when I wake up to take my walk in the morning.
From leggings to t-shirts and more, Beyond Great has you covered and supports a fellow diabetic.
Ladies, feast your eyes on my rippling six-pack.
Oh, Dobie. They even have a shirt that says coffee bolus barbells, which is perfect for my coffee addiction, right?
Amazing. So go check out Beyond Great today and support the diabetic community while looking your greatest.
Let's leave mediocrity behind.
The Diabetes app is an online community platform that was created to help people living with diabetes find support and information in one spot.
On the Diabetes app, you can join groups and connect with other people all over the world and find tips that actually make a difference.
And now, while you're using the app, you can collect points and earn rewards.
Wait, you're confusing me. What do you mean?
What I mean is the Diabetes app now gives you points anytime you like, comment, or post. You can collect these points and exchange them for rewards. We're talking promo codes, accessories, and more free gifts.
Whoa, I like the sound of that. So you're saying I can earn free rewards just for doing what I already do?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Keep using the Diabetes app, connect with others, find tips, and get rewarded for doing so. Back we are, Just My Type, the Diabetes podcast, discussing, dissecting all things diabetes. She's Sami, I'm Dobie. Mary Anderson is here. Mary, I gotta turn you on to something. I know you're in a different part of the country. Sami, my illustrious, vivacious, and effervescent co-host, came up with a wonderful thing we're passing to every diabetic. It's called playing the D card. Sami, tell Mary what that is because it's the coolest.
Okay, so the D card basically is, like, this is going to sound terrible, but let's be honest, we deal with diabetes. So I'm like, I'm going to use it to my advantage in some sort, one way or another. Yeah, will I probably be ashamed? Maybe, but then I like finger prick like 20 more times and I'm like, no. So I've used it a couple times. I've used it to get, a free Diet Coke because I said I had a low blood sugar, which, if you know, Jen does nothing, but we used it and it worked. I got to take around my backpack in middle school because I had to carry around all my stuff, even though it was literally just one diabetes kit. And like stories like that. So like using it to your advantage. So do you have like any times that you've been like, hey, I'm diabetic, I really need this? And they're like, yeah, of course.
Plenty of times. We
Good for you.
in my school, we have to have these meetings, weekly meetings on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and sometimes they are a bear to get through. And so there's been
Wait, I'm
quite a few times where I'm like, sorry, can't make it to the meeting, gotta deal like having pump issues or gotta call this insurance company. And I go in my classroom, close the curtain over the window and lock up the door, turn off the lights. And I sit there and get stuff done for 45 minutes instead of sitting through.
Sami, we can work with Mary. This is one. She gets it before we even had to tell her. She already
I'm
got it.
so glad that you said that because the amount of times, like, thank God, I don't think any of my friends really listen to, well, the friends that shouldn't be listening are, I don't know what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like the ones that I'm like, please don't listen, probably don't
The
listen.
word's out, Sami. We're going to get caught.
Yeah, it's fine.
Just
Honestly,
take
at this
credit
point,
for
I'm
it.
like, whatever. I've said everything. I like have used that so many times to get out of things. Guys, I'm really sorry. My blood sugars are just really not well. And then I'm like, I hope they don't catch on because like there's definitely a day that I'm gonna be like actually like unwell and they're gonna be like, okay, are you just faking it? And then I'm like, no, I swear.
Yeah, this is really bad. My first year of teaching was just so stressful. I had very intense behaviors in my classroom, like just awful. And there was one day I was sick. I mean, it was just a cold. It wasn't anything awful, but I just was stressed over my classroom and then stressed because I was feeling sick. And I really, like, my blood sugar was high, not horribly high, but running higher as it does when you're sick.
Yeah.
And I definitely milked that and used it to go home early from work because I was like, I'm sick. My blood sugar is high. I feel awful.
Yeah. I
I
would do
can't.
that.
I need to go home. I rest, take insulin. And they were like, oh, yeah, of course. Go. No one was questioning that. They were like, go home. We'll take care of your class.
Now, just take it, claim it, be proud of it. And I say take it to the limit. So, I could use a foot massage too. My blood sugars are so high. My 401k is a little low. Could you make a little,
Okay, but the funny thing is, like, I swear, and I don't know, maybe this is like just me, but there's almost times where I like should be actually pulling the D card, and I'm like, no. Like my mom's like, your blood sugar is 55 and you're at the gym, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna do abs then, and then I'll wait because it's naturally gonna go back up. And she's like, just say that you're tired and are gonna go. I'm like, no. I'm sticking it out. She's like, just pull the dang D card right now. I'm like, no. but it's like, I know I should actually be.
Oh, yeah. I've had those moments too where I'm like, this is the moment I really could use it, but I'm going to be stubborn and I'm just going to stick it out because you don't want to
Yeah.
let diabetes win in those moments where it feels like it's going to.
In the moments that you're like, no.
It's like you want to manipulate diabetes and be like, no, you don't tell me when I need a break. I'll tell you when I need a break.
That's the right attitude to have. I totally agree because you know what? It's not going anywhere. It's constant. So if we can take advantage a little bit and get ahead, so when we really need it, like Sami said, we have a chance. I want to ask one thing while we got you on the air here. If any parents are listening and their children have diabetes, what would you recommend as a teacher they can do to make their kids' life easier for their teachers and their schoolmates and their principal and everybody at school?
There's a lot of awesome children's books out there that I think do a really good job representing students and like little younger kids with diabetes and ways to embrace it and still be confident with diabetes. I've read some of those to my own students, even though they're not diabetic, and they love it. And I think those are a great resource for little kids to see and see pictures and illustrations in published books of like, oh, that's a little kid that has a little pump that looks like mine. I think that's really important. And just communicating.
Did they see that movie?
Turning Red.
Turning Red?
Oh my gosh. I had so many students come up to me and be like, there was a diabetic in the movie. They had the thing you have. And I'm like, yeah.
Well, don't you think kids need to get educated? Because it's just a part of society. We talk about this all the time. There are 34 million diabetics in America, 17 million in Canada, and worldwide 360 whatever million. I think it's just an educational process, and other people need to be accepted. We all need to be accepted. But that's one thing I think we could use a little more education. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's diagnosed at so many different ages. You never know who's going to grow up and be diagnosed in a year from now or 10 years from now. You know, it's.
Yeah, because like you, for example, I think it's like, it's weird because so many people were like, oh, yeah, they got it as a child. And I know way more people that got it in their 20s. Like you're now the like sixth person to get it in their 20s, which is wild. And then the other ones I know, I only know like two that had it since they were younger. And the rest are all older. And it's crazy to me. Like it's all like friends of a friend or something. And they're like, yeah, I was 28. Yeah, I was 22. Yeah, I was 25. I'm like, what?
It is. It's crazy. And I sometimes, it's awful to think this, but I look at some of my students. I'm like, what if they're diagnosed in a few years? But at the same time, it's like, well, at least they had someone in their life that had it and was going through it and showed them that like, it's okay. It's not going to hold you back. I mean, I've had that conversation with students. We talked about what the word resilient means. I'm like, you go through hard things and it doesn't hold you back. Like, you know, and I talked about my diabetes with them and they were like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I said that as, I was saying like, oh, I think there was 30. Oh, it's in the How to Be a Diabetes episode. And the three things is like, be selfish, be resilient. And then I'm pretty sure the last one was what? Be positive or something? Be confident.
Well, you can listen to it wherever you get your podcast. Hint, hint. Anybody listening?
Yeah, sure. But the be resilient, because I think that's such an important word and something that not people forget to have, but I think a lot of times you can let a disease get the best of you.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of being like, I'm going to trudge on and we're going to get it going, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Dobie's resilient.
Well, I have no choice. See, and I hear some of our guests, like you guys, and Sammy's mom was on a recent episode that we had. And I grew up, comedians are dented cans. We're freaks of nature. And I was alone. I was alone since I was 17. So when I got diagnosed, I was in my 40s and I was on the road as a comedian. So I was renting a room from this lady whose husband, they got a divorce and she had an extra room in her house, kind of extra level kind of a thing. So, I mean, she had to take me to the hospital and, you know, and it's one of those things where it's very awkward and uncomfortable if you have no one to lean on. And I'm especially frightened. That's why I thought, oh my, am I going to die? So that's why we wanted to create this podcast so people of all ages in type 1 or type 2 could get to say, hey, at least I have someone to go to ask a question and not feel like a freak. I felt like a total, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I love that.
Diabetes is not a one-stop shop.
That is for sure. There's always something new.
You're like on Goliath, that roller coaster. Yeah, Magic Mountain.
It's a lot of shiz.
Yeah, it's a lot of shiz. Magic Mountain, I'm like on Goliath. I'm like, oh, and we're going up. That was literally me an hour ago.
Let's ask this. So what's the positive? Is there a positive? I can think of a couple of positives about diabetes. Go ahead. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I think it's just the opportunities that can arise from it and all the learning moments that come from it. I've definitely learned to be more flexible and adaptable. I've always been a planner and very rigid in what my schedules always look like and what my days look like. And diabetes has definitely taught me, no, you've got to be a little more go with the flow, give yourself some slack and just not being so hard on myself too. I think I definitely am overly critical of myself and have high expectations, and diabetes has definitely challenged that, but I think in a good way.
Yeah.
Sammy, what do you think?
I think it makes you appreciate a lot more things in life, which I know is pretty
Gratitude,
much
baby.
any medical thing you always do. But I think it just, I don't know, diabetes holds a lot of character traits to it that I think because it's not a disease that you just take a medication and then it's like goes into like remission or like you don't have to deal with it for a period. It's so constant that it's like, hey, we're going to hand you a full-time job at this age. And then you just have to like balance that with doing all these things and figure it out. And like, honestly, anybody that does have to do something 24/7, I like applaud them. It's like parenting, like motherhood. I'm like, I applaud my mom because once you pop the kid out, it's yours. So
At least for 18 years.
yeah, exactly. At least for 18 years. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Then you change the locks on the kid's 18th birthday. It's
Yeah.
like, well, you had a free ride. Fend for yourself,
But it's
Junior.
almost like that where you're like, okay, I have it and there's no like getting rid of it. So we're going to deal with it. We're going to take it for a ride.
Sammy, we always have fun with our episodes. The only thing that makes me sad is it comes to an end, and we're coming to an end at this one.
I know. We have a question in the pod, though, which is our exciting. We still have something. So, Mary, what is the question of the pod?
I want to know, what is everyone's favorite grade from grade school?
Dobie, what was yours?
Favorite grade from grade school? It was in third grade, and this Krems writer set me in my ear. So I'm going to have to say first grade because I had my first crush. Holly Lewick. She was my first.
Okay.
She was a blondie, and I don't normally like
Holly.
Hallelujah. No, Holly Lewick. That was her real name. And the Valentine's, I don't know if you have it in your class, Mary, where you get the little Valentine's out on Valentine's, there's a little bag and you put Valentine's in. I wanted a Valentine from Holly Lewick so bad, and I didn't get one. And it crushed my heart, broke my heart. At the end of the year, they remodeled the school. And it turns out she did give me a Valentine, and it slipped behind right where the chalkboard. So the card fell out of the bag, and the teacher just gave it to me and said, Here, this has got your name on it. And it was Happy Valentine's Day from Holly, but it was 5 months later, so I already had my attitude. So I have to say first grade.
What was yours, Mary?
Yeah, what was yours?
Mine was third grade, ironically. That's when I had my favorite teacher, and that's when I decided that I wanted to grow up and be a teacher. And now I'm back in third grade where it all started.
Wait, I love that. Mine was I want to say like, honestly, fourth grade, because I had my favorite teacher, Mr. Holland. He was the best. I had him 2 years because I had a split class both years, and it was great. But yeah, so you can answer that question. What is your favorite grade in grade school? And you can find Mary at mary.type1 on Instagram. She has great content. I also find your reels hilarious, so thank you. You can comment, rate, and subscribe, please. 5-star review so that we can spread the love of the diabetes community and just hear everybody's stories and build a community around it. But you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at JustMyTypePod, _Facebook at JustMyTypePod, and our hashtag at JustMyTypePod. Mary, again, mary.type1 on Instagram. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, it's been such a blast.
Thanks for having me. It was so much fun.
We love to have you back again. And shout out to everybody listening, to our super producer, Elizabeth, who snacks during the episodes, but she's so busy the rest of the day. They're always healthy snacks, too. And Sammy, put the cherry on the sundae. Until next time. What is it?
All right. Say la vie, baby.
This is the Just My Type podcast.